Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, before we speak of markets, money, or survival, pause with me for just a moment, because somewhere, in the quiet corners of time, a question is being written about your life. What if the world you have been preparing for suddenly changes its rules? What if everything you believed was stable begins to shake? And what if the next 90 days quietly decide who rises and who fades into struggle? Not with noise, not with warning, but slowly, silently, like a tide pulling away before a storm. And in that moment, the difference will not be luck. It will not be talent. It will be how you think, how you prepare, and how you act. When uncertainty knocks on your door, beloved listeners, welcome. Today we are not just talking about a crisis. We are talking about a mirror, one that reflects how we have been living with money, how we have been treating opportunity, and how ready we truly are and for a world that may not wait for us anymore. Because if this continues for 90 days, it will not just test economies, it will test people, their patience, their discipline, their courage. And I want you to understand something very deeply. Most people do not lose wealth in crises. They reveal their habits. I have seen individuals who earned very little, but built quiet stability over time. And I have seen those who earned fortunes, but lost everything, because they never learned how to think long-term. You see, money is not just numbers. It is behavior, and behavior does not change overnight. I remember, many years ago, sitting across from a young man, eyes full of dreams, but pockets almost empty. He told me, "I just need one big opportunity, one chance, and everything will change." And I asked him softly, "What will you do with that opportunity if you have not trained yourself to handle it?" He had no answer, because deep down, we are not limited by opportunity. We are limited by preparation. Dear family of dreamers, this is where most people struggle. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect economy, the perfect condition. But life rarely offers perfection. It offers pressure, and pressure reveals truth. In times like these, when uncertainty whispers into every headline, people react in two ways. Some panic, they sell in fear, they stop investing, they freeze, they wait, hoping the storm will pass without touching them. And others remain calm, not because they are fearless, but because they are prepared. They understand something simple, yet powerful, that wealth is not built in comfort. It is built in discipline, repeated quietly, day after day. I have known people who started with nothing, not even enough to invest, but they had one thing: consistency. They saved a little, invested a little, learned a little, every single day. No headlines, no excitement, no applause, just quiet progress. And years later, when crises came, they did not break, because their foundation was not built on hope. It was built on habits. But let me be honest with you, this path is not easy, because the world teaches you the opposite. It teaches you speed. It teaches you shortcuts. It teaches you to chase quick wins. And when those wins disappear, so does your confidence. I have seen beginners enter the market with excitement. They invest without understanding. They follow trends. They listen to noise. And when the market turns, they lose not just money, but belief in themselves. And that is the real loss, because once you lose belief, you stop trying. And when you stop trying, you stop growing. Respected viewers, if this situation stretches into 90 days, it will not just be a financial test. It will be an emotional one. You will question your decisions. You will doubt your plans. You will feel the urge to quit. And in those moments, you must remember, wealth is not built by avoiding storms. It is built by learning how to stand in them. There was a time when I made decisions that cost me more than money. They cost me time, confidence, and peace. I rushed into investments I did not understand. I followed others instead of thinking for myself. I chased returns instead of building value. And every time I failed, I realized something painful, yet important. The market was not against me. I was simply unprepared for it. That realization changed everything. Because instead of blaming the world, I started working on myself. I became patient. I became disciplined. I started focusing not on how fast I could grow, but how strong I could become. Dear family, this is the lesson most people ignore. They want results without transformation. But results are a reflection of who you are becoming. If you are impatient, your investments will suffer. If you are emotional, your decisions will suffer. If you are inconsistent, your growth will suffer. But if you are calm, if you are disciplined, if you are willing to wait, even when nothing seems to be happening, then slowly, quietly, everything begins to change. Because time rewards those who respect it and punishes those who try to rush it. In the next 90 days, if uncertainty continues, you will hear many voices. Some will say, sell everything. Some will say, this is the end. Some will promise quick profits. But wisdom does not shout. It whispers. It tells you to think long-term. It tells you to stay grounded. It tells you to focus not on fear, but on fundamentals. And most importantly, it reminds you that every crisis carries two things: risk and opportunity. And the difference between those who suffer and those who rise is not the situation, it is their response. I have seen people with very little money, but great clarity, build wealth slowly and steadily. And I have seen people with great resources lose everything because they lacked discipline. So ask yourself, not what the world will do in the next 90 days. Ask yourself who you will become. Will you panic, or will you prepare? Will you follow noise, or will you follow principles? Will you wait for certainty, or will you act with wisdom despite uncertainty? Because at the end of these 90 days, the world may change, but more importantly, you will change. And that change will define your future. Now take a deep breath and reflect. What kind of investor, what kind of thinker, what kind of person are you becoming right now? Because the truth is, becoming is a quiet process, almost invisible to the outside world. And this is where most people lose their way. They begin with excitement, with motivation, with hope. But when results do not appear quickly, when the numbers do not rise, when the effort feels unnoticed, they begin to doubt. They ask themselves, is this even working? Am I wasting my time? Should I try something else? And slowly, without realizing, they abandon the very path that could have changed their life. Dear family of dreamers, this is the moment that separates those who wish from those who build, because building requires faith in the unseen. It requires you to continue, even when there is no applause, to stay disciplined, even when there is no reward, to remain patient, even when everything inside you wants immediate results. I have known individuals who spent years quietly investing, learning, improving. No one noticed them, no one praised them. In fact, some people even doubted them, but they continued, not because it was easy, but because they understood something profound, that real growth does not announce itself daily. It compounds, silently, over time, and when it finally reveals itself, it appears sudden, almost magical. But behind that sudden success were years of invisible effort. Respected viewers, if the next 90 days become difficult, you must prepare for this invisible phase, a phase where your discipline will be tested, not your knowledge, because knowledge is easy to collect, but discipline is hard to practice. You can read books, watch videos, follow strategies, but when fear enters the room, all of that disappears, and only your habits remain. That is why I always say, do not focus only on learning how to invest. Focus on becoming the kind of person who can stay calm while investing, because markets will rise, and they will fall. Opportunities will come, and they will pass, but your ability to remain steady, that is what will define your journey. I remember a time when everything around me felt uncertain. News was negative, people were fearful, and every decision felt heavy. There was a strong temptation to step back, to wait, to do nothing. And sometimes, doing nothing is wise, but there is a difference between patience and fear. Patience is calm. Fear is restless. Patience says, I am waiting with purpose. Fear says, I am avoiding with doubt. And many people confuse the two. They believe they are being careful, but in reality, they are being controlled by fear. Dear listeners, if you want to survive and grow in uncertain times, you must learn this distinction, because the world will always give you reasons to hesitate. But success often requires you to act, not recklessly, but thoughtfully. Despite uncertainty, this is where long-term thinking becomes your greatest strength. When you think in days, every movement feels big. When you think in months, every change feels important. But when you think in years and decades, suddenly, the noise becomes smaller, the fear becomes manageable, and your decisions become clearer. I have seen people who constantly check their investments, every hour, every day. They celebrate small gains and panic over small losses. And this emotional cycle drains them, not just financially, but mentally, because they are not investing. They are reacting. But those who step back, who zoom out, who focus on the bigger picture, they move differently. They do not chase every opportunity. They do not fear every drop. They choose carefully. They act patiently. And then they wait. This waiting is not passive. It is powerful, because it reflects confidence. It reflects clarity. It reflects trust in the process, and trust is built through understanding, not through luck. Dear family, there will be moments in the coming days when you will feel alone in your thinking, when others panic, and you choose calm, when others rush, and you choose patience, when others give up, and you continue quietly. And in those moments, you may question yourself. But let me tell you something gently. The path of wisdom often feels lonely because it is not crowded. Most people are driven by emotion, by headlines, by urgency. Very few are guided by principles, by patience, by long-term vision. And those few are the ones who eventually build something lasting, not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily and sustainably. If this situation stretches further, you will also face sacrifices. You may have to delay certain desires. You may have to cut unnecessary expenses. You may have to say no when others are saying yes. And these sacrifices will not always feel good. But they are not losses. They are investments. Investments in your future stability, in your peace of mind, in your financial independence. Because true wealth is not just about how much you earn. It is about how much control you have over your life. And control comes from discipline, not from shortcuts, not from luck, but from consistent, intentional choices made over time. So if the next 90 days test you, do not just ask, How do I survive this? Ask, what habits can I build during this time that will serve me for the next 10 years? Because crises come and go. But the person you become during those crises stays with you forever. And that person will either carry fear or carry strength. Now pause again and reflect. Are you building temporary reactions or permanent discipline? Because in the end, everything returns to who you are when no one is watching, when the headlines fade, when the noise settles, when the urgency disappears. What remains is your character, and character is what carries you through uncertainty without breaking. Dear family of dreamers, there comes a quiet moment after every storm, a moment where the world slows down and you finally see clearly, not what you feared, but what truly mattered. You begin to realize that it was never about predicting every movement. It was never about being perfect. It was never about timing everything exactly right. It was about staying steady while everything else was unstable. It was about protecting your mindset while others lost theirs. It was about holding your ground while others kept shifting. And most importantly, it was about trusting yourself when doubt was everywhere. I have seen people emerge from difficult times, not just financially stronger, but emotionally calmer, mentally sharper, and deeply grounded. Because they stopped chasing noise, they stopped reacting to fear, they stopped looking outside for answers, and they started building something within. Clarity. A clarity that does not panic with every drop. A clarity that does not celebrate every rise. A clarity that understands. This is a long journey, not a short race. Respected viewers, when you reach this level of understanding, something changes inside you. You no longer feel rushed. You no longer feel behind. You no longer feel controlled by external events. Instead, you begin to move with quiet confidence. You make decisions slowly, but firmly. You speak less, but think deeper. You act not out of pressure, but out of purpose. And this is where true power lies, not in how much you earn in a moment, but in how consistently you grow over time. Because consistency creates stability, and stability creates peace. And peace is the ultimate form of wealth. There is a certain calm that comes when you know you are prepared, not perfectly, but sufficiently. You know your risks. You understand your limits. You respect your process. And even if the world shakes, you remain centered. Not because nothing affects you, but because you have learned how to respond instead of react. Dear listeners, this is the quiet transformation that most people never talk about. They talk about profits, they talk about losses, they talk about strategies, but they rarely talk about the inner shift, the shift from fear to awareness, from impatience to discipline, from confusion to clarity. And once this shift happens, everything else becomes easier, not because the world becomes simple, but because you become stronger. So if these 90 days challenge the world, let them also refine you. Let them teach you patience. Let them build your discipline. Let them strengthen your perspective. Because one day, when things settle, and they always do, you will look back, not at what you lost, but at what you gained. Strength, wisdom, control, and a quiet confidence that no external situation can take away from you. Now sit with this thought, gently, without urgency. If everything outside continues to change, but you become steady within, then tell me, have you really lost anything? Or have you finally found something far more valuable? Then come closer and listen with a calm heart, because the truth you are about to hear is not loud, but it is powerful enough to change the way you see money, life, and yourself. Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, these 90 days we spoke about, they were never just about markets collapsing or economies shaking. They were about awakening. an awakening to the reality that wealth is not built in perfect conditions. It is built in uncertain ones. It is not created when everything feels safe. It is created when you choose discipline, even when fear surrounds you. You see, the world will always go through cycles, booms and crashes, growth and decline. But those who truly understand wealth do not chase these cycles. They rise above them because they are not dependent on timing. They are dependent on principles, and principles do not change. Patience, discipline, clarity, consistency. These are not just words. They are quiet forces, shaping your future every single day. Dear listeners, many people spend their lives waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for certainty, waiting for guarantees. But life offers none of these. It offers you choices. And in uncertain times, those choices become even more important. Will you choose fear, or will you choose growth? Will you choose comfort, or will you choose discipline? Will you choose short-term relief or long-term freedom? Because every small decision you make today is quietly building the life you will live tomorrow. I want you to understand something deeply. Abundance is not just about money. It is about mindset. A person with a fearful mind will feel poor even with wealth, and a person with a strong, disciplined mind will find a way, even with very little. So do not just focus on increasing your income. Focus on strengthening your thinking, because your thinking determines your actions, and your actions determine your outcomes. Dear family of dreamers, as you move forward from this moment, do not carry fear with you, carry awareness. Do not rush into decisions, move with intention. Do not seek quick success, build lasting value. Because the journey of wealth is not about reaching somewhere quickly, it is about becoming someone who can sustain it, protect it, and grow it with wisdom. And one day, when the noise of the world fades into the background, when the chaos no longer controls your emotions, when your decisions come from clarity, not confusion, you will realize something beautiful, that true wealth was never outside. It was being built quietly within you, in your patience, in your discipline, in your ability to stay calm when others could not. And that is a kind of wealth no crisis can take away. So walk forward now, slowly but confidently, with vision in your mind, with discipline in your actions, and with peace in your heart, because those who master themselves eventually master their world.